Hello, this is John with Brainstorm Comics and Gaming, and I'm joined by Mr. Sizzle.
Also known as Chandler.
At the end of this video, we will be doing our giveaway for the Department of Truth #1 Jenny Frizen variant.
Gorgeous cover.
It is. We're hoping, we know somebody will be very excited about receiving that. And before we start, I just had a question. Have you received your graded books that you sent off like 2 years ago yet?
I don't think anybody has, John.
And that leads us into our first topic. CGC and CBCS are seeing unprecedented delays in grading. The books that they receive, with some claiming wait times of up to 9 months. What do you think can be done in order to speed up the process and make all of those very angry fans happier?
Well, didn't you see? They just made a huge announcement that they're taking care of it, and you can't rush, great work. We just need to be patient. They've already hired, 70 more people, and they got a bunch more space, and it's fine. Now, will the wait time shrink? No, but you can't rush quality, John. You have to be patient about it.
So the thing I find ironic about that statement is, over the last 6 months on the comic book groups that I'm a member of, a lot of them are starting to say that they're seeing cracks in their books, that they're seeing books graded. So it's a weird thing to complain about, but some of them are saying they're seeing higher grades than what they should have seen on their books. Some are also saying, obviously, that they are seeing lower grades than what they should have seen on their books. Obviously, that can be the bigger complaint than the other.
Sure.
One, like, the corner got trapped in the chamber, which caused the damage to it. It was graded at a 9.8. So it does seem like they are trying to speed through some of it, which is causing even more problems, which is going to, again, cause even more delays. I feel like they were also hindered a little bit in the fact that the mail was delayed for about a month and a half, 2 months, where everything was just in a standstill. Nothing was moving at all.
Right.
So that obviously was going to slow down their turnaround times. More importantly, though, I think that they also started doing signings because conventions were closed down. So they were bringing in these writers and artists to do signings in there. And then obviously those were going to move to the front of the line because they needed to get those into the grading and out and all of that. Do you think that's something that they should have postponed, or maybe they should have hired people exclusively to handle those?
I think if they were going to do it the way they did it, they probably should have had like an own small branch of people to either workshop that out, or have more people, because they knew it was going to take more time, or they should have known, have more people come in to work on that, and not just say, well, this will maybe delay it a little bit, but it'll probably be fine, and go ahead and do it anyway. And I know that is frustrating for people who have had their books out well before people who wanted to get those signed copies. I think it was a good idea in the sense that I know the conventions were closed and a lot of people
the
wanted
creators
to have
also
those.
Getting money.
Yes, it was a good idea. It was helpful for those creators. Like, it was a good process, but I think the way they went about doing it, of just, we'll just put it into our system already, since our system's already moving at lightning speed. But I told you, even upon looking, I couldn't find, it took me a while to even be able to find that quote that they released, today, because I was finding all these other articles from 10 years ago and 7 years ago and 5 years ago about like CGC and CBC, like super slow, like new technique they're trying, slowing down the process anymore. If this had been the first time that they had been slow in getting books back to people, I think people would be more forgiving. But the fact that they weren't breaking speed records before, and now with the pandemic and everybody and their mother sending their book out to be graded.
So the prices of books have been going up, so more people are sending their stuff in. So there were a lot of people who used to go to conventions and just drop them off in person, and they would be done in like a day or two. Obviously, they can't do that right now, so they're sending their stuff in. Then they're doing these signings, and people are sending stuff in for that. So all these are putting stresses on the amount of stuff that they can get through.
Sure.
And then like you mentioned today, they said, we hired 70 new people. Turnaround times will improve, but we're working on training them up right now. But it also seems like they were like, yeah, but don't expect too much of a turnaround because quality matters to us. For me, the suggestion I would make to them is they don't cash my check until after they perform the service. I think that would help them speed up the process, because if you're not paid already, like, you have an impetus to move on to the next book and get it out. I don't know if you have any suggestions for them outside of hiring.
Well, I think, like we said, if they knowing now how much the signing, I mean, that's not the only thing, but the signed copies of books and stuff that can't get bought at the conventions and be graded there, they know how much that has been frustrating people, and the fact that that takes priority, gets moved to the front of the line. If that's handled through, I don't know, through a different company, or through they at least hire like another sub branch of people that this is what you do, you exclusively work with this, that it might double their production, that they're able to get the books out, and those fans and people who have their books and have been waiting and are told now 8 months for not a signed copy, just something that they had that they wanted to get graded, an 8-month wait.
Well, they're saying 42 to 46 weeks, but like I said, some of the people on those message boards are definitely saying 8 months.
Right, that's not the message for everyone across the board, but some people are claiming that that's what they're getting told. With if another branch or a separate entity, a separate group is just working on the signed ones, and then they're able to focus on everybody else's as well, I think that would help decrease. Hopefully, that would help decrease turnaround time.
Well, we'll turn the page on that one. We'll definitely revisit and see whether they have made improvements. So let's move on to the second topic. Next year will mark the 25th anniversary of when 7 superstar artists left Marvel and struck out on their own to begin a new company named Image Comics. Some proved better equipped at business than others, but as a whole, the company fundamentally changed the industry. What important contributions do you think they made, standing here almost 25 years later?
Well, I think if you would have told somebody that, and again, you will still always say that Marvel and DC, when you think of comics, those are still the two names there, and we've talked about this before, I would argue that Image is a very close third. I mean, the amount of creators and talents that they have working for them now is ridiculous. And if you would have told somebody 30 years ago,
I would say not working for them though.
Working along with them, and that's the big thing.
Because they don't own anything,
right? That's the big thing that Image, produces, is that you own the rights to your characters. It's it's owned by creators who felt they maybe were a little bit mistreated, or they didn't like how Marvel and DC was able to own everything that they did because they didn't have access to their characters. Even new ones that they created at the time were a part of the company. So Image had that benefit of them saying, hey, we understand, we are, all of us are writers, artists, like we understand what the ins and out of the company. You can come work for us. You have the rights to your characters. We don't own it. It's free publicity. If you had told somebody 30 years ago that an independent company would have arguably a very similar pull to Marvel and DC, I think you would have been laughed out of the room. But now, like we said, I kind of consider them one of the big three between the two, because Image just puts out so many books and so many people, it seems, from
different genres and stuff also.
Right, all across the game. Whereas Marvel and DC, they can try, but they are kind of cornered in of that they have this slew of characters. They have superhero, and that's primarily what they do. Image, you can go over and you can write any kind of story you want within reason, as long as it gets greenlit and it's a good idea. And you own those rights to that. You're able to produce it, and you're able to have that creative freedom that you also don't have. When you work at Marvel or DC, you're allowed to have your own ideas, but at the end of the day, they're not going to let you completely dismantle, or like some people would argue what they allow Brian Michael Bendis to do. But for most people, you can't just say, well, I want to do anything I want to Batman. DC's going to tell you, no, you are not. This is what you're allowed to do with Batman. Whereas with Image, if it's your character, your book, you can do anything you want with those characters. And I think that's a big weight off a lot of writers and artists' shoulders.
Well, these creators were very familiar with how Jack Kirby was treated, because he was still going through some legal battles when they were starting out at Marvel. Steve Gerber was also going through legal battles trying to get Howard the Duck back. Other creators also, Steve Ditko,
yep.
They were very well versed in how they were taken away from these creators. So when they struck out on their own, I think that they were definitely of the mindset, we don't want to treat other people, other creators, other artists, other writers in that same way. We want them to get the fruits of their labor. We want them to see what it is to own and get that sort of notoriety, not the company, but the creator. And I think those 7 guys were such big names at that point that they were the most capable of separating from the big two, and hey, we're individuals, but we're just as big as important as Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, whoever at that point. But the other thing I wanted to touch on was, I know when you work here, you've probably heard it many times, is a lot of the people who bought stuff in the 90s come in and they go, oh yeah, I remember buying Spawn #1, I regret it so much, or I remember buying Savage Dragon #1, I regret it so much, or several copies of it. And not necessarily because they're bad, but because there were so many copies of it out there. I would argue every time you bought one of those books, you paved the way for what Image is today. If they had not gotten all that money from the beginning, they would not have survived. You would not have Saga. You would not have Ed Brubaker's Kill or Be Killed. You would not
Walking
have
Dead,
Walking
Invincible,
Dead. So the people who regret that, I think, are looking at it the wrong way. And don't get me wrong, maybe it was lost money at the front end, but the quality you're getting now from that company, I think is well worth it if you stuck with the industry. I feel like a lot of times it's in tech also. Like when you first get into a tech, you spend a lot of money, and then the price comes down and it gets better and better. Maybe that first one wasn't the quality that you wanted it to be, 10 years later, but you helped pave the way for where it ended up.
Right, and who knows what the industry would be like if Image was not successful and they went under within the first year or two. If we didn't have that now, what type of stronghold would Marvel and DC really have over? And you would have these people who were forever
and
tied
probably strictly superhero,
right? And strictly superhero, and forever all these creative minds telling these amazing stories and not able to get those rights to those characters and be able to really receive the compensation they deserve.
Yeah. So like I said, I think that definitely the people who feel kind of bitten by the 90s need to change their perspective a little bit and look at what they helped build in the longer, because it was the consumers as well as the seven guys.
They helped make that company.
Yeah. But we'll turn the page on that one. I'm sure next year we'll revisit this and talk about the 25th anniversary or 30th anniversary as they actually hit it. So topic number 3. Scout has a deal with Lunar to distribute their comics in addition to Diamond. How does this alter the industry, if at all?
I think short answer could be that it might have no impact whatsoever. But now, with DC leaving Diamond, that was a big thing. And when it first happened, a lot of people were laughing and saying that is so, like, that's incredibly stupid. Like, Diamond puts out all the books. What are you doing? Like, who even are these companies? There was a bunch of rumor and speculation about what they even were. Or, they're just comic book stores, like, running it up as a front. Like, this is going to fail. You're going to come crawling back to Diamond and everything. And here we are, a year, maybe even
about 8 or 9 months
close,
later.
Yeah, getting up close to, 9 months to a year. And they're not going back. And it doesn't seem like they have any indication that they will with another, Scout, obviously not as big as Image or Marvel or any of those companies, but been selling a lot of really good popular books, branching off and saying, no, Diamond, like, you don't have to have, a stronghold of every company in the industry. I can use this other company over here to publish my books, and maybe they'll have better, it'll be better quality, it'll be treated with more care, it'll be expedited faster, and this company, because they only have a few they work with, they can actually treat me and, like, with my company with great care, whereas Diamond has so many that everything's kind of thrown together and put there. So I think that it's not a kick through the door, but it's a slow push on that door again for other companies to maybe follow in the same footsteps and leave Diamond.
So, well, they're not leaving Diamond. They're doing it in addition to Diamond. And I think that's the separation for me with DC. I would have no problem if DC was going through both of them. I don't like that DC is going exclusively with Lunar. Now, would Lunar have survived without DC going exclusively with them? Probably not. So I can understand it to a degree. I like Scout doing both because giving people more options. Maybe one will start offering free shipping. Maybe like help the comic book stores out on that end. Help lower their cost on the different products and stuff through that means. I don't think this is as earth-shattering as when Image started 30 years ago. I don't think it's as earth-shattering as when DC struck out on their own or went through Lunar and UCS. But I think it's good to have options. I think that we'll definitely see some positive things. Maybe we'll see some more independent ones go with both. It does seem like Lunar is getting their stuff out faster than Diamond, but they also have less things to get out than
right,
Diamond.
The more that go over to Lunar, you might start seeing a similar, turn around, a little bit more delay and stuff. But I think you're right. I think it's never great when one company has a monopoly over anything, regardless of the industry. So I think that Lunar being able to have, people being able to have a different venue besides Diamond before, that was the only option.
So one of the concerns I do have, though, is Diamond has thresholds for independence that they have to meet in order for them to continue to distribute them. I think the threshold is pretty low. Last time I checked, I think it's like 750 or 1,000 copies. I don't think Scout's in danger of not beating that threshold. But I could see Diamond maybe raising that threshold to kind of like push out some of the ones who are trying to have both as their distributors. And the other thing is, I'm hoping this is not a return to exclusive distributors like they had in the 90s. That was a terrible time. Some people enjoyed it. I think it was atrocious, and people had to have like 7 different distributors for like all these different companies. Like, oh, in order to get Marvel, I have to go through this guy. Oh, DC is over here, and so on and so forth. I think that just adds more work to comic book shops and is not good for anybody.
Yeah, he's got the suit. It's not like the characters are different, like the personalities, but...
And that brings us to our big topic of the week. There's never a bad time to broaden your comic book reading horizon. So Chandler and I wanted to revisit a topic that we have done in the past, one that we love, books we feel that you should be checking out that may have slipped by you, seeing as there's always dozens and dozens of books that come out every week. We'll go back and forth. I have 5. I assume you have somewhere around 5 also?
At least, yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with you.
All right, so you just want to do it one at a time?
Yeah, we'll do one at a time.
Okay, well, now I got to narrow down my list a little bit here. So I think for number 5, I am going to try to keep these mostly independent because I feel they need the most love. But I do think that it goes without saying that we both really loved Infinite Frontier, and I know a lot of people picked that up. Not everybody did, but DC's whole line right now is sort of, you should read that first, just because it's really great, and it does, like we said, is finally over the 10-15 year shadow of just like there's something dark and gloomy hanging around the whole time. It does have that hope and that ray of sunshine and brings a lot of new characters. But in order to go what's going on, there's also been a slew of really, really great titles. Some Superman, action, Wonder Woman, detective continuing their numbering, some new books coming out with number 1s like Batman Urban Legends, things like that. There's a lot of really great stuff. Joker, there's a lot of really great stuff coming out for Infinite Frontier. So before you just dive all into all that great stuff, I think it's important that you go back, if you did miss it, and check out that Infinite Frontier number 0, especially since they announced that there will be a 6-issue mini-series starting in, I want to say...
June, I think.
June or July, something like that.
My number 1 is actually not a comic book. I love the history of comic books as much as I love comic books itself. I would recommend people like deepen their knowledge of the industry. I think it's very rewarding. I think that you see what creators go through behind the scenes that you may not have known about. The book that I have as number 1 on my list is Marvel: The Untold Story. I will tell you, it may alter your opinion of some things. I know I keep pushing you to read it.
Or some people.
I know I keep pushing you to read it.
I'll get around to it.
So that's my pick. I think that it's a very easy read, but like I said, you see a lot of things of how they progressed and all of that. I do want to... The one camera has a red light flashing. I don't know whether that means it's recording or... It means it's recording. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. All right, go. I didn't see it doing that before.
All right, so my 4th is, I think we're going opposite orders, but I'm going to continue with how I started. But so my 4th pick for something that you might have missed that I think you should be reading. I'm going to ease in to the independent. So if you're still more of a DC Marvel person, you're not really as big into independents, I have a book that's kind of DC light for you that you might be interested in called Noctera. Came out earlier in March. It is written by Scott Snyder.
Never heard of him.
Which, if you haven't, he has been really big working decently exclusively at DC for the last several years. But he started off with independents and things like that. American Vampire and a lot of things that people are excited about. So this is sort of his first step afterwards, where he's kind of taken a pause from all things Batman, all things DC, and he's partnered up with another name you'll probably recognize if you've been reading DC. But even if you've been reading Marvel, a lot of covers, Tony S. Daniel, who is also broken off, written about a really great series too, but he is a really good artist. We've pointed out that we think that the superhero industry has kind of maybe negated his artwork a little bit, that it's maybe kind of made it a little bit more streamlined. It doesn't get to pop as much, but this book is more of a darker undertone. It has a little bit of horror elements where his art is really able to shine and showcase like its own character.
I like Tony Daniel's art, and I feel like when he worked for DC, he was kind of phoning in some of his work. Like, yeah, here you go. Here's your Batman page.
Right. And this book does not feel like that. This book feels like he definitely is really passionate about it. It's a really cool character. Brief synopsis. The world is essentially plunged into eternal darkness. If you are surrounded by the darkness, you turn into this mindless monster creature entity. So there is this character who she is sort of a ferryman to take people from point A to point B. She has a giant 18-wheeler full of lights. She's always got like her lantern flying out. She's like a really, really cool, awesome character, and she helps transport people who are lost and suffering, being chased by these monsters. She fights them back and sort of safely, or as safely as possible in those times, transports them. It's a really interesting concept.
And I know what people are thinking. Scott Snyder never writes anything dark. This is a departure for him.
What is he doing? He's always so happy. But it's a really cool concept. Like I said, only one issue out so far, so it's not like you would have to go back very far to get caught up on this. I think it's a really cool premise. The first issue was good. I'm excited for the second one, and I think it has a chance to be a really cool series.
Yeah. I joke about Scott Snyder. My next one is Black Friday. I'm going to be kind of quick with this one, but it's definitely a good one. Again, only one issue is out. The animosity and such that develops on Black Friday as people go shopping, as they punch each other for that last blender for $5 or that last VCR or DVD player for $1 or whatever, has manifested in the breaking the barrier into allowing these demons and such into this Walmart type store. They're trying to fight off these monsters and such. The cool thing about this one is the monsters didn't really appear in the first one much. It was more about the character development, and I feel like they definitely did a great sketch of each one of the characters, that each one felt like real people. You could see the kind of manager who was strictly by the book, and like, that's not what the manual says. We have to do this. So I would definitely recommend that one. It's a fun read, but it is a horror one. I know that you say, John, don't you hate horror? Don't you say that?
You love horror.
Maybe not. Anyway.
You're in denial. So my third, I just sent you off with a number one of a quick catch-up. My number three is going to be a little bit of the opposite of that. But anybody who's been watching these videos or comes in the store and talk to me, you know how much I love the series Nailbiter. It had a sequel series that was a 10-issue miniseries that just wrapped up not that long ago, but the big news is, little bit of a spoiler alert, but there will be a third series that they're going to be working on. So it is a great time.
How much did you cheer when you heard that?
A lot, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I hadn't heard anything. I hadn't heard those rumors, so it was brand new to me. So I was very excited to see that. There's going to be a bit of a downtime of a hiatus right now while they're working on that. So it is a really great time to get caught up. The first 6 volumes of the original series, Nailbiter, which is 30 issues, is out. It is a really, really fun series. It is a character. It centers around a serial killer. Well, it's fun. A lot of people like serial killers, John. It's fun. So it centers around a town of Buckaroo, Oregon, where 16 of the most brutal, crazy, gimmicky serial killers the world has ever seen, they all come from the same town. The one it focuses on is Nailbiter, or Edward Warren, and figuring out he's recently been released and not charged with anything, despite being very famously being caught murdering somebody and eating their fingernails off. Somehow has been acquitted. But a lot of other, disappearances and things going on. The writer is really, really talented. I really love the series. Sequel series follows more of the same. Third one, there was a big reveal at the end of the second series. You're going to want to get caught up on that. And the last collected volume should be released in a couple months. But like I said, you have plenty of time to get caught up before that third series comes out. It's really cool. Anybody into horror, serial killer, watching those Netflix documentaries, those dramas, this is something that is really cool that you want to sink your teeth into. In the interest of full disclosure, I got Chandler into Nailbiter, and he's very angry with me because I didn't go beyond volume 1. Not because I didn't like it, but because I have limited time, and Chandler hates me for getting him both into Invincible and Nailbiter, and you gotta finish. So good. So my next one is Recount. This one has two issues out, and it has been a really good series. And this one, the president has been assassinated. This terrorist group has decided to kill everybody associated with his election. That includes politicians and the electorate. So they track those people down. They say, you think we can't find you? You volunteered that information every time you went on Facebook and touted who your candidate was. I could easily see this becoming a TV series or a movie. It definitely is very topical with how the country is split right now and how people are very visceral in their reactions about their stances on politics. I personally hope that it doesn't
assign a different political party to each one. I hope that they keep it very like generic. I think that it can be even more powerful if they do that. But each issue I'm always looking forward to reading. It has been a terrific ride so far.
I know what you guys are thinking. Thank goodness, because it's been so politically quiet these last, couple years that I really need to find somewhere where I can get that outlet out, where I can talk about politics.
It's a great commentary on it. It's really well done.
Satire without being too opinionated one way or the other.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
So my second one, I know some of you might be watching these and being like, I'm feeling a little guilty that I missed the boat on some of these. I don't want to be shamed or anything. I will admit that I missed the boat on this next one, but I have since corrected that issue, and I would recommend that everyone do the same. Image released a new series that they said they really want to kick off, and we've talked about earlier in the video that Image, the cool thing about it is they're not exclusively superhero, but they definitely have had a fair share of their superheroes, namely Invincible being my favorite over the time. Their new series, Radiant Black, I was a little leery. I was like, I already have Invincible. Do I really need this from you? Image, you put out a lot of good other books. Do I really need another superhero book? But superheroes are my first love, so I did eventually go back, check out the first issue, and I really, really enjoyed it. It starts off with a struggling writer who is having to move back in with his parents. Life is not going great for him. He has a lot of credit card debt piled up. Everything is kind of in a really, really bad place, where he runs into this mysterious alien entity and is gifted these crazy awesome powers that he is now having to be faced with. But the issue is that he might not be the only one that has been given these powers, and what that means for him. Like I said, only one issue out so far, issue 2 coming out soon. I really, really enjoyed the series. I regretted not picking it up when it first came out. I feel like I missed out on it a little bit. So I would recommend, especially anybody who's a big fan of superheroes and is leery to check into an independent book, check this one out. It might be right up your alley.
Sounds good. I haven't had a chance to read that one yet. That is in my stack to read. My next one is Homesick Pilots, two rival bands trying to outdo each other in the venues where they perform. The one female from the group decides, like, hey, you know where we should do this? At that haunted house that everybody is afraid of. So they go to inspect it, and she kind of gets sucked into it, and it begins a kind of a very weird trip of trying to recover pieces from the house. I'm going to be honest, I have not had a chance to read 2 through 3 yet. People have told me that the genesis of the story has definitely changed over those next couple issues. So I'm going to move that up on my stack to get those done this weekend. The first issue was really, really well done. Again, I know, John, you hate horror. Why would you be choosing so many horror books?
Because you love horror. All right, so my last one is going to be... I'm debating between two. But I think my last one is going to be, again, I'm trying to get you, if you are a big Marvel and DC fan, I'm trying to get you to expand your horizons a little bit. So I'm trying to tee you up with some things that are like adjacent and very similar in that thing. So a really fun series that has been out for several issues now, about 5, is Crossover, who is written by Donny Cates. If you have been living under a rock for the last couple of years, you don't know who that is. If you're everybody else, I'm sure you're very familiar with the name. Venom, King in Black, everything is going very crazy with that right now. Super, super popular.
Thor, Guardians
of the Galaxy,
Doctor
Strange, everything to do with Marvel. He's got a little bit of hand in everything. Very popular runs on all of his stuff. He has moved over into this new independent series. Like I said, only about 5 issues, so not too much to get caught up on, but in about another issue, probably we'll have a collected volume. It centers around ourselves, our regular world, and the premise is, well, what if the comic book characters literally leapt off the page at you? And there's an incident in Denver, I believe, a couple years ago. It takes place a few years after, where someone was reading a comic book, and all of a sudden, all of these characters and everything that was inside of those comics just gets dropped right in the middle of the city, and the repercussions of what that implies. It centers around a character called Ellipses. She's a really cool character. She's written very, very well. Her backstory is a little bit tragic. She's trying to deal with the aftermath. She was one of the people most affected by that dropping of all those characters in that city. It has become quarantined, where all comic book characters are to be kept in those bounds, but not all of them want to stay there, because why would they want to be in an internment camp when they didn't know what happened to them in the first place? So it's a mystery of figuring out how it happened, but also a mystery of figuring out, well, who's actually in there. And In the meantime, there's also a lot of really cool little teasers. There's been rumors of a lot of different actual crossovers between other characters, especially at Image, but potentially, I don't know if it'll actually happen. There has been some rumors of some bigger superhero and characters that might show up there, so it always gives you a little hold on hope that you might be able to recognize some of those really big names. But it's a really cool series, very well written. Like I said, only about 5
Bringing
issues.
back Madman.
Absolutely, a lot of really fun. If you've been reading comics for a long time or for a little, it's got a lot of stuff in there for
Donny
you.
Cates bringing his independent stuff in also.
Bringing his A game right over to the independents.
Well, I mean, bringing his independent characters over also.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You gotta.
My last one is, surprisingly, a horror title. Maniac of New York. This book is kind of like Friday the 13th. It's Jason Voorhees, kind of type of character, killing people, going throughout New York, killing. He's been on the loose for, I think, like 5 years at the opening of this. They give news reports on him kind of like he's the weather. Like, oh, it's sightings on the subway this week. Definitely kind of an interesting take on it, treating the serial killer as like a pop culture kind of phenomenon, like keeping track of him. I definitely recommend this book if you like the darker stuff. I know Chandler loves serial killers, so I recommended this one to him. I don't know whether you've had a chance to read this one.
I have not. It's on, like I said, it's on my list of things. Just like you got yours, you haven't gotten to. I got mine, so it's definitely on that stack. But it definitely seems like a really cool prospect and something that like eerily like might be something that you could see on today's media if we had, what would happen if we had a Zodiac killer that came out, around this time where we have all of that access to social media and ways to get that out there. Would we be treating it any differently?
Yeah, so I liked it a lot. So those are 10 great books to definitely fill in your either comic book knowledge or also just broaden your horizons into different stuff outside of the superhero genre. So we're going to do something different with our quick takes this time. We're going to do our Happy Grails, which is our saying goodbye to some great books that we sold this week. Over the course of the last week, we parted ways with several of our graded books. Definitely visit our eBay page. So you can see some of the stuff up there. You can also come into the store, obviously. We have them behind the counter. We have them in between the back issues hanging above them. So we'd like to bid Happy Grails to those books and congratulate the new owners for their purchases. Number 1, Hawkeye, number 1, 9.8 hip-hop variant. This was purchased by a person named Joel. Hopefully you enjoy your book. I know that Hawkeye is some of the favorites of some of the guys around here, one of their favorite characters. Do you have anything to say about that character?
I'm saying it's a good book, especially with his, new series going to be coming out in Disney Plus. I think that's a good bid. Like you said, we have a whole bunch of stuff, as much as you can get on a weekly basis. Our eBay store is a great place to any of those really cool books. We have a lot of really great stuff there in some really great condition. So if you are missing things in your collection, it's definitely a place you want to check out.
Number 2 is God Country number 1, written by one Donny Cates.
Speak of the devil.
It was a 9.8 as well, and Zach purchased this one, so happy Grails to you for that one.
Absolutely.
That was an Image one that he wrote and broke out, helped his career break out.
Absolutely, yeah, and I know 9.8 number 1 is a hot commodity, especially with how well he's doing right now. So that's
I think it may have been optioned also. I forget whether that one's been optioned, but
I can't remember, possibly, but that's a good find. That's a good thing to add to your collection.
Number 3, Batman 200 7.0. This was the Neil Adams cover. Christopher bought this one. Happy Grails to you. Hopefully this joins your wall and gets displayed and
as it should.
Yeah.
Very cool looking book.
Yeah.
Even at a 7.0, still good condition.
Presents very well. Yeah.
Yes.
Number 4, Hulk number 271. It was an 8.5. This was the first Rocket Raccoon in a full color comic. Stacy bought that one. Happy Grails for that one. Definitely becoming an important character in the Marvel Universe with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Had a lot of exposure with that movie and that series so far.
Absolutely.
Has Rocket been one of your favorite?
I've enjoyed. I mean, the Guardians are fun. I think it's been a little bit sad with the whole, departure of the director to bringing him back. And with the pandemic, that it has been delayed a little bit. We are getting that third installment, and we will have to see. Hulk's one of those interesting characters where, because of the whole universal rights deals and everything with the character, he doesn't usually get his own movie, so you kind of never know when he's going to show up. So it's kind of always exciting to see, when's that next time that we're going to get to run into Hulk.
So next year is the 25th anniversary of the Thunderbolts, and we sold Hulk 449 9.8, which was the first appearance of the Thunderbolts. Peter bought that one. Happy Grails to him for that.
Absolutely, another good find. 9.8 always great to put on the wall.
A lot of people are comparing that to this week's Children of the Atom. I won't say any more because I don't want to.
No spoilers.
Yeah, don't want to spoil that. And last, number 6, Amazing Spider-Man number 4, 9.8, first appearance of Silk. Charles purchased that one. Happy Grails to you. That Silk is going to become a TV show, I believe. So
Absolutely.
that one, I think that's Disney Plus, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So that one will probably see increases in prices. So definitely a good time to buy that book.
Yep. Maybe got ahead of the curve before it jumps up in price. So.
Yeah.
Always be on the lookout. Like we said, a lot of really great stuff, both in store and stuff that we don't even have room to put it in the store. So check out that eBay stuff. We got a lot of great things up there for really great high grades on those books, good condition. Always anything, like I said, if you got holes in your collection, your stuff that you're looking for, definitely check out that eBay store.
So thank you for watching. We want to ask you to subscribe to our channel, like the video, comment below with topics you think we should cover. And continue to watching for the selection of who gets the Department of Truth #1 Jenny Frizen variant. No, Chandler, you cannot win it.
I know.
Thank you for watching. Have a good day.